Hello. Can you hear me okay? Welcome to the podcast. I don't know. It is 12:52. I'm drinking a glass of wine, and I just felt like it would be a good time for a chat. Past 4 months have been lots of dating stuff, and I thought maybe let's talk about what it means to be gay and dating and that whole romantic side of life, which I feel like, by the way, I have not figured out. So that is the context of which we're going into this. I feel like I have not figured out this part of my life. I'm still trying to figure it out. And I also am one of those people who is not super into the hookup scene. And that is a lot of what gay dating is. And so I'm trying to navigate that. And it's just fucking complicated, okay? So here I am, blasting all this shit out to people I don't know. But this is my little diary. This is where I can talk about how I'm feeling about things. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about being gay and dating. So the first thing I want to talk about is this idea that there's sort of a delay in every gay person's life a little bit. I don't know where I first heard this, but the idea is basically that as a gay person, there's sort of a few year delay on figuring out romantic things. And that's because of the coming out process and how straight people tend to have more opportunity and bigger pools and of possible romantic partners, and they just tend to have their first a bit earlier. And so I very much felt this delay in my life. I didn't come out publicly until I was 17. I only talked to my first guy when I was 18. And by the time I went to college, I'd only ever talked to one guy and kissed one guy a couple times. And I had no clue what was going on. But I came to college in California, and a lot of these gay kids grew up without this delay because they grew up in an environment where it was super socially cool to be gay from a really early age. Whereas in Virginia, people didn't really give a shit, but people only didn't give a shit when they got too busy to give a shit, you know? It was not cool to be gay in middle school in Virginia, okay? It maybe became cool to be gay when I was a senior. But yeah, here I was in California expecting to discover myself and explore what it means to be gay and dating and all of that, when all of these other guys had already done that. And that was really challenging. I met this guy who's now my friend, and one of the first things he told me was yeah, I'm not super into dating right now because I don't want to have to handhold someone through the process of figuring their shit out. I want to date people who already sort of know what they want and know what they like and all of that. And I was oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, you know? In my head, I'm freaking the fuck out because I'm I don't know what I want. I don't know what I like. I want someone to hold my hand through this stuff. And that one little sentence he said stuck with me for years. It gave me this mentality of I just need to figure this shit out by myself. There is no one I can count on to hold me through or walk me through this process besides myself. And that was really scary because I think at least for me, I wanted this idea of the innocent romance that sort of blossoms into something more. I felt that was robbed from me because I didn't have those experiences growing up or being young. And I still want to have that, where the first kiss is the big deal and I don't know, you're talking to all your friends about it and it's just more than going over for the night or whatever. I think this concept of wanting that slowness, that intimacy, that more innocent relationship, and that pull of wanting to play catch up for everyone else and to feel socially on the same page as everyone else in terms of your romantic life. That yin and yang and that push and pull has been sort of a constant opposing force in my life for the last 3 years, because the environment I'm in now, people are just way more liberated than I was coming into college, okay? They were doing a great job. I was not. And so I went on my first date in college in February of my freshman year. Oh, hello. I'm back. This is why my mouse is here. I have to tap it every once in a while. Went on my first date in college in February of my freshman year, and I was really into this guy. We had talked for a few weeks, but I was in quarantine because of COVID, and so we hadn't been able to meet up. This was our first time meeting up. I really liked this guy, and let me tell you, I did not lay a finger on this man. No hugging, no kissing, no nothing. We sat on a bench together, and we were opposite ends of the bench. She was over there because she was just so attractive, and I was so excited. I don't know, I was so nervous. I was fucking puking on the way there because I was so nervous. I remember finishing that date and writing in my diary, that like it was a great date, but I wish we had some like physical intimacy. Like it peaked in anxiety where I felt like I needed to catch up to everyone. But what if I'm like bad at this? Like, what if I can't do this? What if I'm not capable of sharing that physical intimacy with someone else? It was like the anxiety. And a few short days later, that relationship ends. And it was one date and that shit fucked me up, because I felt like it was almost for that reason that it ended. I felt so incapable and so frozen in the moment to be able to share that intimacy with someone that I just didn't know if I'd ever be able to do it. I just felt so scared almost. It was like I'd kissed that guy in the past, but it was very much like him kissing me. And I was never good at making the first move. It was hard trying to figure that out. I think those effects really lingered because suddenly, here I was on this like really innocent date, which was kind of like what I wanted. I wanted this to be like a big deal. I wanted someone to hold my hand through it. And then it didn't work out. And for whatever reason, I ascribed my like self-worth to that not working out because I couldn't share intimacy with that guy. And now, like, instead of wanting that innocent first date, the sort of like pendulum swings. And it's like, no, like, I do not want to be dating. I need to play catch up. As I sort of said before, I'm the only one who can hold my hand through this shit. And I just need to figure that out and like learn enough so that way for the next guy, I'm not going to fuck it up. And so that was the next like many months, was me feeling like I needed to play catch up and feeling kind of down on my self-worth. And I had some really beautiful experiences with a couple guys. The first one was like very much going into it with a hookup mentality. And in the end, I sort of choked. I was like, I can't, like, I'm so sorry, but like, we cannot hook up. Like, I'm so sorry. I've never done that before. And I just feel like, I don't want to. That guy was, I would consider like one of the first guys that I shared some sort of physical intimacy with. Like if that guy in high school where we sort of kissed, I mean, I don't even know if I would count that. Like it was just, I don't know. This guy, all we did was we cuddled. Okay. We cuddled for the night. And let me tell you, that confirmed I was gay. Okay. If the first guy, I was like, oh, like, okay, back in high school. This guy, I was like, this is super attractive. He is super attractive. Here I am in this bed, cuddling with this beautiful guy in a hotel room, which is kind of fucking crazy, by the way. In my head, I'm just like, this is crazy. And it was like this beautiful moment. And I was like, this is what it like feels like. This is what it should feel like. And this is like the beauty that people feel in this. And it felt so right. And it felt like I couldn't imagine it any other way. And so that was a great experience. Then I had another experience with a guy in like October. So it's like every couple months I'll go on some dates and then I'll get tired of it or whatever and I'll stop, or I'll get nervous and I'll stop. And that in October was really good as well. I definitely learned a lot more about myself with that guy in October. And each time, this was pretty short. It was like, maybe 1 or 2 dates. And I would still get really, really nervous about it. Like, it was hard. It was hard to do that for me. And so by the time 2022 starts to roll around, I'm entering into my second semester, my second year at college. I'm feeling like, okay, I'm feeling like I've played enough catch up at this point that I feel a little bit more confident in myself. And I feel like I'm ready to maybe get out there again a little bit more. And so I do. I get on Tinder at the start of the year and I meet this guy, and very quickly we're just like friends. He was more into like a hookup kind of thing. I obviously wasn't super looking for that at this point because now I feel like I've played catch up and I'm like ready to find the love of my life. So wasn't super into hookup. And so we were just like, oh, like, let's just be friends. And so we went out as friends and he was really dope. And we kept being friends and we spent like a lot of time together for a couple months. And over this time I was like, fuck, like I kind of really like this guy. He's kind of like really awesome. He's got like a great personality. We click super well. And he also happens to be super hot. And he also happens to be gay. And we also happen to have matched on Tinder. Like, what does that mean? I mean, because that means that like theoretically he thinks I'm okay too, he thinks I'm attractive. And so I sort of just like slipped it in there. I was like, hey, I would love to go on a date sometime if you want to go on a date, but like if not, like totally cool, let's just be friends, put this behind us, nothing ever happened, like chill, whatever. Because at this point, like a lot of the guys I had met on Tinder, when it didn't work out, we would just be friends. And it wasn't weird or anything. Well, this guy was not that mature. Totally collapsed our friendship. Looking back on it, like, I don't know, like, should it have collapsed the friendship? I just feel like, I mean, this guy was a bit older than me. I feel like, come on, dude, like, just put it behind you. Like, I still want to be your friend. Like, when you don't have interest back, it's like, okay, like, let's just move on, you know? But no, totally collapsed the friendship. And that was really, really devastating for me, actually. And so very quickly, the pendulum swings back and I am not dating anymore. So yeah, that was pretty short lived. That's kind of how these things go. I'll go on dates for like a few weeks and then something will happen and I'll like play Punisher by Phoebe over and over again. And then I'm like done, you know, I'm like, okay, I need to stop for a little bit. And that's what happened. March 2022, I was done. It remained that way until December of 2022. It was tough because I felt like I had done what I need to do to play catch up, but I also felt like I'd only gone on a couple dates with these people. You know, I never ever had something like a little more serious, a little more long term. And I think it was just a bummer. My experience in knowing love, like growing up, my experience in seeing other people's love were like my parents who married super young and are together 30 years later, and like my cousin who met the love of his life a week before his freshman year of college and now they're engaged. Like I was expecting to go to college, like meet the love of my life, like get married, you know, after college. And I sort of was like sitting there sulking about it for like 6 months in my head, like lonely or whatever. I just never felt like it was the right time after that. And I was still kind of upset about how it ended with the guy who I was friends with. And then things turned sour so quick. Like, how could that happen? Because we were like really, really good friends. I don't know. I just felt betrayed by it all. And that lasted for a while. By the time December came around, now I'm in my senior year. I'm doing the degree 3 years. So this is now my senior year. It's like not a good time to start dating. I'm in my senior year, like I'm leaving in a couple months at this point, but like in December it was like in 5 months I'm gone. Not a good time to start dating. But you know what? I was like, fuck it. Like it's never been a good time to be dating. It was like quarantine. The friend thing kind of fucked me up. I was at home for the summer, so I wasn't like in California. It's never been a good time. Like, why am I limiting myself? If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. I need to be putting myself out there to like try and make it happen if I want things to happen. You know, I think there was a little bit at this point, the like wanting to catch up again, in the sense that all of my friends are now in like serious relationships, and that can be a challenge to navigate. You know, I definitely lost a couple of friends because of that. Just, I feel like when you fall in love, some people are really good at balancing that with their friends and others are not. And like, I am just not gonna sit here and wait around for you to figure that out. Like, it's not fair to me. And so I definitely lost a couple friends to like them discovering their first love. No bad blood or anything. It's just like we kind of didn't hang out anymore because they weren't around, right? So I wanted to like put my hat back in the ring, stop sulking about it, and try and navigate the gay dating cycle again. Okay, December 2022. It is now late March. It's been 4 months. I have gone through 4 guys and I am still single, but I'm done. I'm done again. I've called it quits. You know, rest in peace to my college dating life. It's over. I got like 2 months until I graduate. I'm not doing this anymore. I surrender, okay? But I learned a lot from these last 4 guys. I think at this point, like, first dates are a lot easier. They don't like put my stomach in knots anymore. I felt like I was able to play catch up to the point that I wanted to. I met some really hot guys and found myself in some really hot situations. I don't know, it was good. And it's interesting now being 21 and looking back at myself at 18 and navigating those first dates and seeing how I handled the situations when they went poorly and how that impacted me and how I let it impact my self-worth. Because I think like it is, and it still is, it's like a little embarrassing, you know? You put yourself out there, or you like tell your friends about it and you're like, oh, like I'm going on dates with this guy, and then it doesn't work out for like whatever reason, and you have to go and tell all your friends like, oh, like it didn't work out, like oops. And after like a couple times, that shit's embarrassing, because then you're like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Well, now that I'm 21, like, look, I don't think I'm weird on dates. I think I'm fine. It's just sometimes it doesn't work, you know? It's like, it's okay. And I look back at how I like was so impacted by these things at 18, and how even those things at 18 and how I felt about them then still kind of impact how I feel about them today, just because of how big it felt back then. And now that I'm 21, I've gone on more dates, as if, might I add, 21 is old. Like, I'm still trying to figure this shit out, obviously. But the impact it has on my life has like lessened. That's been a really positive experience to like be able to go on these dates with guys, and then when it doesn't work out, just have like a really mature conversation about it and not feel too shitty about it. You know, like I can let myself have a night and be like, oh, like what a bummer, but it doesn't need to control my life anymore. And that's a really like beautiful thing about the last 4 months. I ended like 2 of the dating stints with guys, and I was ended on by 2. It's okay. You know, I also felt like by the end of it, my rationale that there is no good time to be dating, I think it's a little wrong. I think it is. The last guy that I met was really awesome. He treated me so well. He cooked me he cooked me dinner. He cooked me dinner. I went to his place and he cooked me dinner. We went on like 4 dates. It was very lovely. He was the nicest guy I ever met. And I had like kind of a tiny mental breakdown during one of the weeks, because it hit me very suddenly that like I am out of here like 8 weeks, and I've been focusing on my social life, but I've been focusing on my dating life, and I need to like refocus on my friends. You know, there have been a couple friends I hadn't seen in a while. I found myself trying to compartmentalize this dating aspect to a couple days a week or something. I felt like I couldn't give 100% of myself because I just felt guilty about like not hanging out with my friends, and like that's strictly a timing thing. And so I guess maybe there is a better time to start dating. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure this out. This part of my life is so turbulent. Past 3 years have been so turbulent, and it's going to continue that way for a little while, I think, while trying to figure out post-grad stuff and like moving and all that. But my hope for the future is that like when things settle down, that will be the right time. A couple other things with that was like I had to end it with that guy just because of the timing stuff, and I have had that same excuse used on me before, and I never understood it. I was like, that's so bullshit, you know, like whatever, timing, blah 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 blah, like who cares, like whatever. It's just a bullshit excuse. This was the first time where it was like not bullshit. It gave me a new understanding and a new empathy towards like that situation. But also one realization I had was like, if I was falling in love with this guy, then even with all of those reasons, it wouldn't have mattered, you know? So obviously there was something else there that like I just couldn't let myself like fall in love like that. At least like not now. And it made me like look back at how other relationships have ended given that excuse, and understand that like that's true, you know, that is a valid, totally valid excuse. But at the same time, like, don't hold your breath, you know, because if they were falling in love, like that would have mattered. So anyway, that is pretty much all I have to say. We've been caught up now on my dating life. Let me just have a sip of wine. In truth, there is definitely more complexity to these stories than I've shared on this video. The way I feel about the people in these stories change all the time, and sometimes this stuff really gets to me. The playing catch up will get to me, or like the feeling like I'm behind will get to me, or I'll feel insecure about like the fact that I haven't been in a relationship or whatever. But I am making this because 1, I kind of wanted to talk it out, but 2, these 4 guys, these last 4 months and these 4 guys did not end in what one would traditionally classify as success, or how I would have defined success, which is like a relationship. And 4 months later, I'm single. I'm ready to mingle. No, but single. But at the same time, this felt like such a success. I'm no longer super nervous on first dates. I've done this. I feel more confident and more comfortable in myself and in my body, and like being intimate with people. Just simple shit like giving a guy a hug. Like I couldn't do that 3 years ago. And I wanted to make this video partially like for someone who is 18 and like stumbling across this and feeling similar to how I felt back then, which was, am I ever going to be able to do this? Like, this is so hard, and the people I'm around feel so much further than I am. And that's how I felt for so long. And I'm feeling a lot better about it now. I really just want to celebrate that accomplishment. So anyways, I pray to God that none of the men I have mentioned ever see this video. But if they do, I haven't said anything too incriminating, you know what I mean? That is it for tonight's topic. I hope my points came across. I hope you have a great night. I will see you sometime soon for the next podcast episode. Okay, I'm gonna move myself out of the frame now, give you like 10 seconds to click on an end video card, and then we're gonna end this video. Okay? Cheers, goodbye, good nights. Goodbye, good nights. Goodbye. night. Goodbye. Good night.